I'm actually going to surprise a bit. I'm going to go Manuel Neuer, just because I really do think that he revolutionized the role of the modern goalkeeper. And I think if we're talking about a shift in football the last 25 years, I think Manuel Neuer most represents it.
The production team have set us a really interesting task to build the best backline since 2000.
Okay.
So we're going to give you some choices in each position. We've got the goalkeeper, the 4 defenders, 3 choices in each position. And obviously you're going to have a player from around the 2000s, the 2010s, and then a player that's playing right now. And you've got to choose who's going to fit in each position. And we're going to choose we're going to build the biggest, biggest and best backline.
I'm feeling the heat of actual construction workers trying to do their job in the summer. I feel this pressure. I can already hear the comment section getting upset at us. This will be an interesting one.
Don't dismiss it. This is going to be really difficult, just as difficult as being on a construction site.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to start with a goalkeeper. Let's have a look at the 3 we've given you a choice from. So Manuel Neuer, obviously still currently playing, although towards the end of his career. Thibaut Courtois, obviously the most recent, the youngest of the group, and then Gianluigi Buffon as well.
Yeah, and this is sort of going to be the interesting part of this exercise.
For me, there's a clear choice here.
Yes, I understand. For me, I think there is one of these things that I like to buck up against, which is that people get that sort of, to use the terminology that the young kids use, that aura built over time. This idea that the further and further you get away from someone's best period, you start to romanticize. You start to think of all the clean sheets. So I feel like
retro choice.
Right, exactly. I feel like the retro choice, and then you hear all this nonsense about, oh, they don't make ballers like they used to, they don't make players like they used to. So I understand. Neuer, for me, I could say he revolutionized the position. Gianluigi Buffon, obviously, the level of defense, that level of, I remember when the United States drew Italy in the 2006 World Cup, there was, how in the world are we going to score against this? The level of defending, the level of goalkeeping, it was horrifying to come up against. And then obviously Courtois, I think now has that level of imposing, that level of fear when you look at him in the goal, you're like, how in the world are we going to score against this guy? Because I see people score goals against him, though, I think, so my tendency would be to go for Buffon. I'm actually going to surprise a bit. I'm going to go Manuel Neuer, just because I really do think that he revolutionized the role of the modern goalkeeper. And I think if we're talking about a shift in football the last 25 years, I think Manuel Neuer most represents it in terms of playing with his feet, coming off his line, at times playing on the halfway line for Bayern Munich. So I'm going to make the choice of Neuer as my goalkeeper of this generation.
Okay, I would disagree with that. I'm going to go, for me, goalkeepers have to be crazy, and Gianluigi Buffon was my kind of crazy, so I'll be going with him. But it's your choice. You've gone with Manuel Neuer. We're going to move to right back now. For me, this was the most difficult one to choose from. When I looked through the 3 players, so hard to choose. You got Philipp Lahm, such a long, successful career. Achraf Hakimi, who, and if you make that case that you talked about earlier on, old things are great things. The fact that he's still playing maybe counts against him. And then you've got Cafu, obviously the Brazilian legend. Which way would you go here? Yeah,
again, for me, Philipp Lahm represents that level of consistency that you pick a right back and you write him down in your team sheet for 18 years and you forget about the position. That is how good Philipp Lahm was over that course of time. Achraf Hakimi, for now, again, you want to talk about reinventing positions. He pops up in areas. I remember watching the Champions League final and hearing the commentary team of Clive Tildesley and Rob Green going, how did Hakimi pop up in this position? He's basically a center forward now. And obviously Cafu, his brilliance getting up and down, the crosses, the defensive ability is absolutely different level. So I think, again, older things are better things. I'm going to pick Cafu here, but I really was tempted to pick Hakimi. I wonder if we do this exercise in 5 years' time. Hakimi has done even more than he's done now with PSG and with the Moroccan national team, that we'll see him rated even higher than he is now. But I think for now, it's a bit premature. If I were to project where his career will go in the next 5 to 10 years, I would pick Hakimi, but because he hasn't done it yet, I'll go for Cafu.
That's the slight difficulty with the current player, is you're also projecting how good could they possibly get, and I agree with you, Hakimi's one that could get much better. I also did go with Cafu. I mean, what an absolute legend for Brazil. Now, this is the position, we're going to go to left back now. This is the position where I feel that as we move through time, the quality of left backs in terms of the total number of greats that we've got in the game, perhaps has declined slightly.
Yeah.
We had so many great left-backs back in the day. Roberto Carlos is our representative from that period. And it's a position where it's difficult to name players like him that you see in the modern game. We've got Marcelo and Nuno Mendes. Who are your What's your feeling on that? Do you think that the position of left back, the quality generally has gone down over time?
I don't know if it's gone down. It never really is the position where you just see lots and lots of great players. It just feels like it's such a specific role. If you have a great left foot and you have an ability to play with any kind of attacking quality, you see those players higher up the pitch just because it is such a rarity. And so you very rarely see a player that stays like Marcelo, for instance. Marcelo, for me, as a representative of great attacking fullbacks, players that get forward and have that level of creativity, the highlight reels of his first touch, which are the best to watch. And then you look at Nuno Mensch, again, you want to talk about changing our thoughts of what that left back position can be. His ability to get forward, even at times his ability to kind of stay as the 3 in rest defense and defend really well. Again, you're talking about projecting, but Roberto Carlos represents something, I think, that is a skill set that has actually died in the very few people can strike a dead ball, can strike a ball, period, in the manner that Roberto Carlos does. Even still, I remember seeing there was a Legends game that was played at Inter Miami a few years ago, and they're doing all the training exercises with the players beforehand. He still hits the ball like that. That left foot, will never see anything like it again. I loved watching Marcelo down the years. The way that he got forward was amazing, but Roberto Carlos, it is an actual case where you can say, there is only one. There is only one player like him. So, again, older is better, and I picked the nostalgia again.
It's going to be a very retro back line that we've gone for here, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to move on to the centre-backs. Obviously, we're giving you a choice of 6 here. You've got a right side. We were going to do right-footed and left-footed, but you get a sense, Van Dijk's an example of a player who, strikes the ball with one foot, but then actually plays on the other side. So we've divided them of right-sided and left-sided. You've got to pick one right-sided, one left-sided. Gabriel made his way. That caused some consternation amongst the production staff who were like, how on earth has he made it into a choice of 6? But he did. He's in there. Yeah. Sergio Ramos, Cannavaro. I'd sort of forgotten about the length of time at which he was operating at that very highest level. I mean, obviously, when you talk about centre-backs, everyone points to the career of Sergio Ramos, which is still unbelievably going as a brilliant centre-back. But you've got Cannavaro in there in terms of your right-sided centre-backs, and you've got Bastoni, Van Dijk and Maldini on the left side. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, so I think for the right-sided, I'm going to go for Sergio Ramos, just because there is no player that, for me, that kind of typifies winning, typifies, I think, this idea of rising to the moment at every biggest moment. He's literally kept Real Madrid alive in Champions League finals with goal scoring. He has this incredible ability from corners, leadership, and that we're not getting beat today. So I will go for Sergio Ramos on that right side. And I think on that left side, those are 3 incredible options. Bastoni obviously representing that modern idea of playing left back, but having a complete positional versatility to get forward has been a huge part of two sides.
Scores goals as well, which is, I don't know how the numbers compare.
Provides assists as well, gets crosses in from that area. I think Maldini is a player that can also play at left back and is part of, I think you look at that 2005 Milan side, the one that didn't win the Champions League final against Liverpool, but honestly should have done when you compare the level of talent. And you go, oh man, Maldini was just such a part of a back four that was impossible to play through. So I think my choices would be Ramos on the right side. Again, this is sort of that level of Virgil van Dijk is a player who I think has single-handedly changed Liverpool, who has made them so strong and so solid and represented such a big improvement over what they had. But this is one of those things where modern internet annoys me, where every other fan base's goal is to tear apart the best. So you see so many criticisms of Van Dijk, but, oh man, this is one of those where if you pick Maldini ahead of Van Dijk, or you pick Van Dijk ahead of Maldini, everyone's going to rip, oh, Van Dijk isn't that great.
Don't worry, they're doing that anyway.
Right. Fair enough. So I'm going to pick Van Dijk and Ramos as my 2 at the back, because I really do think that Virgil van Dijk, when you come up against Liverpool, when you come up against the Netherlands, when he's back there, it's so difficult to play through and around him. He just completely locks down the space that's in front of him. I understand I'm upsetting the Italians, but I'm going to go for Van Dijk.
He's also someone who so calmly made that jump up from being, he was a great Premier League player at Southampton. A lot of teams were looking at him. Moved to Liverpool. There was big question marks.
At Celtic before that.
Exactly. Would he be able to perform at that very top level? And he has just delivered season after season after season after season. They've done such a great job managing to keep him around. So here you go. Gabriel didn't make it in
Yeah, fair enough.
Question marks over that one. This was the way I went as well.
Oh, interesting.
I went Buffon. I know you deliberated between Neuer and Buffon, so I did go retro with that one and went Buffon, and then Roberto Carlos, Virgil van Dijk, Sergio Ramos, and Cafu. I don't think too many goals will be scored against
I feel
them.
worse about my Van Dijk choice, but with my own eyes, I
think there's also
a
force of personality. Both Virgil van Dijk, Sergio Ramos, both captains, getting a huge amount.
That almost might be too much personality.
They're just too good.
That might be one. Who's going to get the armband? Who's going to yell for it in the air? That might be too much personality.
Okay, we're going to move the goalkeeper out. If you were to choose the best defender that we've shown on that list, so all of the players, and obviously it's a little bit unfair because we are comparing wing backs sometimes to centre backs. Who do you think is the defender that's made the biggest difference to world football since the year 2000?
It's funny because I just didn't pick him. It's probably Maldini, honestly. Well, but again, that's representative, I think, of that entire Italian generation that won the World Cup in 2006. That had some of the best Serie A sides.
They made defending cool, didn't they?
Yes, they
certainly
did
for my generation.
Well,
you think about them as being like, okay, these guys played in a defensive style, but they were still cool.
They represented defending. They represented what it was. That if you really wanted to see defending at its best, you'd go to Italy and you would watch Bonucci, Chiellini, Maldini, and obviously Buffon in goal. There's so many great Italian defenders. So I think if we're talking about just the art of defending, not who you are as a player and what you represent to your team, I would probably go for one of the Italians and probably Maldini.